This upload on the Coriolis effect and the information that I've found is interesting to say the least, because as Einstein quoted, if you can't explain it simply enough, then you don't understand it well enough. And even he couldn't to some degree. But in physics, the Coriolis effect or Coriolis force is an inertial force that's also called a fictitious force that basically acts on objects that are in motion that are relative to a rotating reference frame. So in a reference frame, let's take the globe for example, with a clockwise rotation, the force acts to the left of the motion of the object. Okay, so the Coriolis force is supposed to be responsible for large-scale weather patterns and legendary cause of the direction of the water swirls down the sink. So for instance, in the northern hemisphere, the water swirls in an anti-clockwise direction, and supposedly in the southern hemisphere, it rotates and swirls in a clockwise rotation. And that is clearly not true, as you can see for yourself. As a question to ask Australians, do they actually look up or down? Now, if you actually ask a scientist or a physicist to actually explain the Coriolis effect, you always get, because I've tried this a couple of times now, where they just point to the equations, they mutter something about rotating frames of reference, and it's clearly not their fault because they've only seen the equations and rotating frame explanations and calculations. So the globe theorists and the globe head people that we talk to, not to stereotype, but the best pieces of evidence they think to support a globe Earth is the Coriolis effect. But it actually seems to add much more support to the flat Earth, but makes absolutely no sense whatsoever on the globe Earth. And furthermore, if the Earth's atmosphere supposedly rotates at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator once a day, and it's attached by gravity to the ground, as claimed by the official scientists, then the Coriolis effect shouldn't even exist, guys. It clearly contradicts the globe model. Because how can the Coriolis effect allegedly impact bullets and causes storms and hurricanes to swirl clockwise or anti-clockwise dependent on hemisphere, but then fail to have any single effect on any aeroplane that's travelling east to west or vice versa, or even having a single effect on the parachutist that's coming down to land, or weather balloons that are falling from high altitudes, or even have an impact, let's say, on a volcanic eruption that shoots straight up into the air? Why is the Coriolis effect so selective? Why is gravity so selective? You can ask any marksman, any shootist, or forces sniper if the Coriolis effect had any effect on bullets. Because if the Coriolis effect really had an effect on them, then shots fired north or south should never actually hit their targets. They'd be off by several hundred meters just depending on your latitude. So due to the supposed Earth's rotation moving the target, remember that, for long-range shooting 10,000 meters plus, there is not one single correction for what is thought to be Coriolis, but is truly the azimuth, which is the north direction. So anything less than 2,000 meters will not have any azimuth corrections. Simple. Nothing on the Coriolis effect. The only time the marksman or the shootist will ever require to change their direction is based on wind speeds and direction only. No incalculation or calculation for Coriolis. Fact. So why do hurricanes seem to rotate in different directions depending on the hemisphere? Well, it's kind of simple in the flat Earth layout, because the circuit of the sun, heat and influence, just contributes to the vortex rotation, and the vortex action of Earth also contributes. Okay, so that can put that to rest. And I have also seen a few videos as well and uploads, I do have to mention this, where they do seem to be rotating in the same direction as well. So that is also something that it certainly needs to be mentioned anyway. And you can also see the Fibonacci sequence within a hurricane, just to throw that out there. But the Earth actually does not rotate under you. There's no evidence at all that you can see that actually Earth moves from under any free moving object, a bullet, a ball, a plane, a skydiver, etc. So any perceived Coriolis effect is caused by something else acting on the object itself. Wind, inertia, parachute, centrifugal force, etc. Skydivers can change their direction, okay, and land from any angle without detecting any Earth movement. Yet in the Earth supposedly moving east at 1600 kmh, 1000 miles an hour depending on your latitude, how would that be even possible? So think about this, as soon as he opens his parachute and he has a dramatic drop in speed, he should observe then a noticeable shift in the ground if the Earth was moving under him, correct? But he doesn't, does he? A skydiver never takes into account the Earth's rotation when he's planning a jump, nor does he consider the direction of the plane in relation to the supposed direction of the Earth's spin. Because guys, the Earth does not rotate, alright? And going another one, the record high jump when Felix did that Red Bull station jump from 128,000 feet. He should have landed then a few hundred miles off if the Earth was obviously rotating under him when he fell. But he didn't, because first of all that was a load of rubbish, and second of all there was everything wrong about that video when you break down the science that is actually involved in it. From the CGI fisheye lens they used to film the whole thing, all the waters of the flat Earth seem to have disappeared, and the fact that the Earth didn't seem to rotate under him when he was falling. And he made a satanic sign as well. All the science and the evidence is there, guys. You have only two choices in the world of the world. And I just want you to think about that for a minute. You either believe it's a globe, or you believe it's not. But for whatever you believe, it doesn't really matter. The truth is the truth, whether you believe it or not. And the globe is just an illusion. This azimuthal equidistant projection, Gleason's standard map of the world, is used by all aviators and all ship captains today. So believe what you want to believe. The azimuthal equidistant projection is the real map of this flat plane we live on. Now I will break this down with a final fact. This is a flat rap. It's not crap. We were all indoctrinated at birth when we should have been researching and studying about the flat Earth. This was Nee B's upload on the Coriolis effect. I want to thank you very much for watching. Please feel free to share it, spread it, do as much as you can, and hit that subscribe if you're new. You guys and gals, take care.